Hello and welcome to another episode of Soulful Saturday. I am your host, Jima Cahill Cook of Kimji Counseling and Consulting, as well as the author of Reflections, What I Know to Be True, a 30-day devotional. How are you today? I am so glad that you are here on yet another wonderful Soulful Saturday. It is indeed my privilege and pleasure to be with you here today. I am thankful for all of you all that have followed me and liked my page, my YouTube channel, Kimji for the Soul. If you've emailed me at Jema, Jema, at kimjiforthesoul.com, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've heard some wonderful things from everyone. That last week's episode kind of resonated with you a little bit. I'm so glad to hear that. I understand that some of you have even worked on your list, that you've worked on your list of different things of trying to figure out, who am I? And more importantly, who am I becoming? What a wonderful exercise. And I hope you've taken the time to give yourself a little bit of grace, because remember, we talked about not only who you are, but your roles that you might have and things of that nature. And so I want you to be okay with starting out with identifying yourself by your role. But then I really want you to identify, who am I? At the core, who am I? What makes me me? What are the things that I value? What are the things that I believe in? Okay? So I really, really hope you've taken the time to give yourself permission to kind of check in with yourself and see who you are. Once again, thank you so much for being here. We're here for a hot topic on today. One of the first things I talked about when I did my introduction, I said some of the different topics we will be discussing, and one of them was around forgiveness. And I said at some point we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. So for the next couple of episodes, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about forgiveness and what it is and what it is not, what we've been taught about forgiveness, what we believe about forgiveness, and how forgiveness sometimes traps us from our own healing because of our unwillingness to forgive. Or not even, maybe not be unwillingness. We just might not know how to forgive, right? We may not truly understand that in forgiveness, it's not just about, oh, I forgive the person, but now I have to come into some understanding of what am I accepting now in this act of forgiveness, okay? So there's a couple of ways we're going to get started, and I promise you I won't be before you long. I know I say that every Saturday, and I promise you this time I won't be before you long, okay? But here's the deal. What I want you to do, I do want you to follow me on TikTok, on all things social, at Jema, at kimjiforthesoul.com, Soulful Saturday on YouTube. Like, share, tell the people, let everyone know what's happening on these Soulful Saturdays, right? And so here we are on a holiday weekend for some, a day off for others. Celebrate how you choose, okay? But here we are on another Saturday, and I hope as you are out grilling or watching some fireworks or whatever you're doing, that you take a little bit of time and listen to me today, okay? So today we're gonna talk about forgiveness. Well, you know me. I'm an educator at heart. I'm a teacher. I'm a trainer at heart. So I always like to do one thing first: define what a word is. So what is forgiveness? I want you to think about that. When you think of the word forgiveness, what comes to mind for you? Is it that that person has now access to me again? Does that mean I forget what happened? Does that mean that the pain wasn't real because I've forgiven that person? What does forgiveness really mean to you? So I want you to define that. I was going to define it for you, but I think I want you to define what forgiveness is. How does it show up for you? Okay? So one of the things we know about forgiveness, and I'm going to start with us in forgiving ourselves. That's the first line of forgiveness I want to spend a little bit of time on today. It's talking about forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves for our thoughts, forgiving ourselves for our beliefs, for our mistakes, for our shortcomings, for the things we did, didn't do, say, didn't say, for allowing ourselves to be used, for allowing ourselves to be mistreated, taken advantage of, lied to, right? So every year, at the beginning of the year, there are two things that I do outside of what I do with my church and our fasting and praying. But one of the things that I do is years ago, I created a forgiveness journal. And in that forgiveness journal, I've written down every person that I needed to forgive, that had done something to me, that whatever. I wrote down every person's name. And somewhere along that journey, I realized that I wasn't on the list of forgiveness. I was forgiving everybody else, but I had not forgiven myself. So every year at the beginning of the year, I go back to that journal. And you know what I find? Although I have written the name down, and I have even written down what they did, sometimes I find myself remembering something else they did that I need to forgive them for. Sometimes I find something else that I need to forgive myself for. So I add that to the journal. And I do that at the beginning of the year to give myself a freshness, a newness of coming into the new year and what the new year is going to be about for me. So that's going to be one of my challenges to you, is that if you have not started a forgiveness journal, to begin to do the work in that. Now, here's a cautionary tale. Forgiveness is not easy, and it's not a one-time thing. And you may need some additional help on your forgiveness journey. So I hope that you will find someone to talk to if it gets a little bit too heavy for you. If not me, then someone else, another counselor or therapist that can help you navigate these waters, because they're not gonna be as smooth as you think it is. And so I don't want you to be unprepared for what might come, okay? So I want to put that out there, that you may need to get some additional help as you are working and figuring these things out as it relates to forgiveness. So one of the things that we talk about when we talk about forgiveness of yourself is giving yourself compassion, showing yourself kindness, showing yourself empathy, as well as giving yourself some understanding about what it is you're trying to forgive yourself for. A lot of times when we think about it, and Iyanla Vanzant wrote a whole book on forgiveness, and one of the things that she says in there is that we have to practice forgiveness, right? Letting go of the past does not mean that we forget the pain of what happened. That's not what it means. But it does free us, and it does allow us to move forward and to grow, right? If I cannot see me past the thing I've done, then I am not going to be able to see me becoming the person I need to become, because all I see is who I was or what I did. I hope that makes sense, okay? So I'm having to learn how to acknowledge what these thoughts, feelings, and emotions that I do have as it relates to the thing I need to forgive myself for, right? How do I feel about that? And identifying what those feelings are, and acknowledging them to myself. This is a part of the journey when we're talking about healing from the inside out, right? This is what we're doing, is healing from the inside out, acknowledging those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that I have. Another thing, when I asked you at the beginning, I wanted you to define what forgiveness is to you. That is because we have some certain beliefs about forgiveness. And one of them is that if I forgive somebody, then I give them back access to me. Or I'm saying it's okay what happened. And that's not what forgiveness is. That is a belief that sometimes we've been taught based on how things around us have unfolded. Now, here's the other thing I want to say about forgiveness. I said it's not easy, And a lot of us, based on how we were raised and whatever your spiritual connectedness is, you have a sense that you have to forgive based on what it is you believe in. And that is true to a certain point. It doesn't mean, and I'm going to say this a few times today and the next week we talk about forgiveness again, but it doesn't mean that you allow that person to have access back to your world just because you've forgiven them, okay? I need you to understand that. Forgiveness of yourself requires you to be honest about how you feel. That's why I said, what are those emotions and thoughts and feelings that you have? But it's not about judgment though. Acknowledging your feelings, acknowledging the thing that happened to you, or even what you've done or what you've allowed, it's not about judgment, right? It's not about what should or shouldn't have happened, what did or didn't happen, what I said or didn't say. It's not about judgment. And I need you to understand that. This isn't a judgment zone, issue. The other thing I want to say briefly about forgiveness, and this is something else that, like I said, Iyanla Vanzant said in her book too, and it was a great book. I read it, and I did some of the exercises in it. If you want to find it, it's called Forgiveness: 21 Days to Forgive Everyone for Everything. But forgiveness inevitably, and this is what she says, leads to acceptance. But it is more of a demonstration of your willingness to move on. And so when I'm thinking about the things I need to forgive myself for the negative self-talk, for the I'm not good enough, for the I should have done it that way moments, right? For the allowing the person back in that I knew was not good for me. Forgiving myself for not saying no when I really wanted to say no. Acknowledging the thoughts, feelings, and emotions about that. So one of the things I want us to do is I want you to focus on what those emotions are. I want you to define for yourself, what is forgiveness? What does it mean to you? And then I also want you to give yourself permission that as you're on this journey of forgiveness, of self-forgiveness, I want you to give yourself permission to take a moment and pause. As I stated, it might get a little heavy for you. So you may need to talk to someone outside of yourself as you're going through this. And I don't want you to feel like you got to rush to do something. Okay? I want you to sit in the feelings that you have, but I also want you to give yourself permission to say, okay, I can't, not today. I can't do this today. And if you need help in extending that, find you someone to talk to as you're on this forgiveness journey. And so I want you to know that a part of forgiveness that we forget about is that it does restore our faith, that it does help us rebuild our trust, and it opens our hearts. It opens us up to receive so much love, right? And so we are all worthy of it, but based on some of the things that's happened to us and happened around us, we forget that part, okay? So as we journey in the month of July, probably the first couple of weeks or so, we're gonna talk about forgiveness. And so I want you to spend some time journaling as you are identifying what forgiveness means to you. I want you to figure out as you're journaling, what are those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you have? Who do you need to forgive? And begin with yourself. What are some things you need to forgive yourself for that you haven't forgiven yourself for yet, that you probably haven't even thought about, that's something you need to forgive yourself for? What I know to be true is that underneath a lot of our angst and a lot of our anxiety are feelings that have not been resolved and are acknowledged. So my goal on these Soulful Saturdays is to help you, as I always say, heal from the inside out. My goal is to help you, right? So I am here to guide you on this journey, to help you see those pitfalls that's been lingering around, that you haven't connected to anything because you don't think it's connected. I'm here to tell you it's all connected, okay? And sometimes that word forgiveness scares us. So I want to be able to help you remove the fear around forgiveness and give yourself permission to forgive yourself. Start with you. Start your forgiveness journal with yourself. What are the things you want to forgive yourself for? And begin on that journey of doing just that. I thank you so much for being here with me today on another episode of Soulful Saturday. Please like my page on YouTube, Kim G for the Soul. Please share this information with others. Please visit me on my website at www.kimgforthesoul.com. Email me your questions, your concerns. Even if you need help finding someone to talk to, please email me at jima@kimgforthesoul.com. You are not on this journey alone. I am here right with you to guide you, and help you see that you are worthy of all the things that's in store for you. So once again, thank you. I appreciate you. I adore you. And I am so glad that you joined me for another episode of Soulful Saturday. Take care, be blessed, and see you next Saturday.